Hey there, McCleary fourth grade scholars. It's Mr. Sparks here. So with this lesson here, what I was going to do is I'm showing you guys a little activity with elapsed time. So this is a refresher, but remember, elapsed time means how much time has passed between two times, or also you can add up the amount of time to figure out what time things finish or what time you would have to begin an activity. So this has real practical applications in everyday life, knowing how much time something will take and how much time has passed between an event. So the first problem goes as follows. The Eagles game begins at 4:05. If the game ended at 7:35, how long was the game? So I always like to do my elapsed time on a number line, just like this one here. So I set it up where I had my beginning time, 4:05, over on this end, and my finishing time, 7:35, is over here. So typically what you're going to do is you could just add up chunks of time until you get to that final destination down here. So usually what I would do is if it's 4:05, I know that I'm going to need to add at least 1 hour. Okay, so if I add 1 hour plus 1 HR, and I can just abbreviate HR, that's going to take me from 4:05 to 5:05. Okay, so I'm still pretty short here. So I can go, I'm going to skip ahead another 2 hours. Because I know if I add at least another 2 hours here, that's going to get me to 7, because 5 plus 2 is going to get me to 7. So 7:05. So far I've gone up 3 hours. Now I can't add another hour here because I would go pretty far over. So what do I need to do? I need to figure out, okay, if it's 7:05, how much time needs to pass here? That's going to be just another 30 minutes, okay? Plus 30 MIN. So basically all I need to do now is I look at, okay, it was 1 hour plus 2 hours, so that's 3 hours and 30 minutes. Boom, 3 hours and 30 minutes. Got it, nailed it. Okay, so something that's kind of neat with elapsed time that you can do is you can actually kind of alter your timeline here too, okay? So the fact that I started at 4:05, if I just take 5 minutes away, that puts me back at 4 o'clock right here, okay? So all I need to do is adjust on the other end. If it ended at 7:35, that means I need to do the same thing here. I need to take away another 5 minutes from this end. So I go back to 7:30. So now I can work with this in a much simpler manner from 4 o'clock to 7:30. So again, I don't necessarily need to have made those two jumps here, because I could have just figured out that if I added 3 hours plus 3 hours from the get-go, that's going to get me to 7 p.m. And then, so now all I have to do is add 30 minutes plus 30 and that's going to get me to 7:30. So a little bit more efficient way of doing this, and that's what we always want to go for is, efficiency. But whatever kind of works for you is what you want to do. So making sure that you're just kind of adding up the time and you add it up correctly. Now let's take a look at our second example. So this is a little bit different. Students at McCleary arrive at 8:40 a.m. Lunch is 2.5 hours later. What time will lunch be? Okay, so in this case, we're giving a start time, which is 8:40, and we have to add up time to that to figure out what the ending time would be, okay? So basically, I could just start out with, well, I always kind of like to start out with the bigger chunk, because adding an hour is somewhat easier than adding up the minutes to begin with. Okay, so if I add 2 hours plus 2 hours plus 2 hours here, 2 HR, okay, that's going to get me from 8:40 to 10:40. Okay, right? So I've kind of taken care of that part already. Now all I needed to figure out is, well, what would a half an hour be? So a half an hour, that's 30 minutes. Problem here is it's a little tricky trying to add 30 minutes to 10:40 from the get-go. So what we can do here is we could break 30 minutes down into smaller pieces. If I add 20 minutes here to 1040 plus 20 minutes, that's going to get me to a nice even hour mark of 11 o'clock, right? So that gets me to 11 o'clock. So now all I need to do is add an additional 10 minutes here, plus 10, M-I-N. So my 10 minutes, that's going to get me to my landing spot of 11:10 a.m. Boom. So just by doing those couple little jumps, it makes it pretty easy for me to figure out like the landing point here. So the last one, okay? So this is kind of working in the opposite way. So Emma needs an hour and 15 minutes to get ready for school. What time does she need to wake up then? So this is kind of going backwards. So we have to remove time, basically. So one way that I could do this is I could just take away the straight up hour. I could take away 1 hour, or another way I could think of it is, what's an hour and 15 minutes? So I know that 1 hour would be 60 minutes, and then adding another 15 minutes in, that's going to be 75 total minutes. So there's a couple ways I could go about it. Is I can first take away basically 40 minutes from here to get to 8 o'clock, and then jump back another 35 minutes from that time. Or, because I know it's an hour and 15 minutes, what I might do, what would probably actually be easier, is again, just starting with that hour mark, okay? If I jump back 1 hour, minus 1 HR, if I take away an hour from 8:40, that's going to get me back to the time of 7:40. Okay? And I always kind of like to make sure that whenever I do these jumps, I have my arrows so that I know if am I going backwards, am I going forwards in time. So that takes care of that first chunk, that first hour there. So now all I need to do is take away another 15 minutes to get to my final time here. So what you might even want to do is just, kind of make it a little bit simpler on yourself, because taking away 15 from 40 could be a little tricky. So I might just take away the 10 to begin with, 10 minutes. If I take away 10 minutes, that's going to get me to 7:30, I'm sorry. Okay. And then I have to take away another 5 minutes from that. So removing another 5 minutes will get me to that time of 7:25. Boom. So there's my answer right there. So you could do it whatever way you like. If you wanted to just take away 15 from 40, and you're good at subtraction, then you would know that it's going to be 7:25 there. But the important thing with these types of problems is remembering to keep track of both the minutes and the seconds. Okay, they have different amounts, and you can convert into minutes and seconds and hours by looking at the conversions. So whatever works best for you, please feel free to do it how you like. But I always like to think of it as these types of problems with a number line. Number lines make it really easy to keep track of for elapsed time, because a lot of times what students will do is they'll forget that there's 60 minutes in an hour, so they end up forgetting to regroup, and that always ends up causing issues. But when you keep track of it on a number line, just like we did here in these 3 instances, you should 99.9% of the time find the correct answer, get your way to the correct solution. So thanks for tuning in. I appreciate it, and see you soon. Bye.